Okay guys, I have finally perfected my Flurry Rogue. I am very sure right now that this is an absolutely S-tier build. You can very easily farm tier 8 Infernal Hordes in about 15 minutes. You can of course kill Lilith with it, you can solo tormented bosses, you can do high pit runs, everything you want in the endgame basically. I'm pretty sure this is the best Flurry build right now that you can play. And well, if we talk about the weaknesses, so it's not as broken as an Andariel's Rogue or a Lightning Spear Sorcerer. So these builds are absolutely broken and they are more like S+ tier. But this build is the definition of a very solid S tier build that just competes very well with other classes. And one problem that might be a problem for you with this build though is that it's not a lazy build. You have to push some buttons from time to time. So also actually if you really want to achieve the highest possible damage during this high tier pit runs or Infernal Hordes runs, you need to spam some buttons. So this might be a problem if you're more of a brain dead player, let's say. You just want to chill and play a very lazy build. And another problem that might occur in the beginning is that it's a very requirement heavy build. So you need a lot of tempers, you need to hit the right tempers, you need to hit them well, you need to hit some specific affixes in order to make some core mechanics work. For example, the energy regeneration, energy sustain will be one of the biggest problems for you in the beginning, at least if you start to build this build. But besides that, I don't think this build has any more weaknesses. The boss fight used to be a weakness of my latest version, but now it got much better, and you will see that in tier 8 the bosses die quite quick for the setup here. So if we talk about the gameplay now and what I have changed during this whole process where I just perfected this build. So I have changed the imbuements. So basically we are playing now without any imbuements. We are just playing with Pure Flurry and dealing physical damage. So my latest guide that I have uploaded a few days ago, I showed you my Cold Flurry version with Cold Imbuement. And Cold Imbuement is very good for speed farming tier 7 Infernal Hordes. And also the bosses are not that big of a problem. But in higher pit tiers like tier 8, not pit, sorry, in higher, also pit tiers, but also Infernal Horde tiers. And we also have, I think it's confirmed that Blizzard will release some even higher tiers. So I think we will get tier 9 and 10 in the next mid-season patch. And so for higher tiers, this Pure Flurry Rogue is much better. We are just not as reliant on crowd controlling effects and staggering bosses. So for that reason I have dropped Cold Imbuement entirely. And now the damage just comes from Pure Flurry. And also another big change is we are not playing with Inner Sight anymore. So Inner Sight had some problems. One of the main problems for me was that the Leirena's Instinct legendary node in the Paragon, it was bugged, so it has some buggy interactions with Crown of Lucion, which is the unique helmet that is best in slot for this build. And the damage bonus just did not work at all. So I had more than 30% damage bonus from this Paragon, legendary Paragon node, but it did not work at all with Crown of Lucion, so I was losing basically 30% damage there. And that really annoyed me, so that was one problem. Another problem was that with Inner Sight, the game kind of wants you to play with Scoundrel's Leather, since it's very fun and has some cool interactions. But it also had some very annoying anti-synergies with the build. So the main one was that you were losing momentum stacks each time Scoundrel's Leather was casting something. So that was really annoying, and also you lose a lot of damage this way. So for that bunch of reasons, I have dropped Inner Sight for now, and I am now playing with Preparation. So the Preparation specialization has a very different playstyle from Inner Sight, and that is also one of the reasons why I'm playing with Rain of Arrows. So maybe you have noticed I have Rain of Arrows on my skill bar, and this is a very important skill that I will explain later in the key mechanics section of this video. But basically what Preparation also does is we are much more tanky. We also have some additional damage reduction with preparation, and you can see I'm not dying at all here. So I'm basically also not taking any damage at all. Also because I have a huge barrier that is up mostly all of the time, maybe 90% of the time. So I'm very tanky with this build. I'm also rocking only dexterity gems. I'm not even playing with rubies. I have less than 30k life and still I'm not dying at all. So this is, I think, the most tanky build I have seen so far, not in Diablo 4, but at least for the Rogue class. And maybe it's also one of the tankiest build right now. And now you can see the boss fight. So here I was not lucky. The bosses are not pulled together, so I had to fight them one by one in the beginning. Later it gets also a bit better, but also like I mentioned already, so in this version here without cold imbuement we are not that dependent on the staggering phase of the bosses. So even though we kill the bosses within 3 staggers, we are not that dependent on it anymore, so we do not to freeze enemies, stun enemies, crowd control enemies, so we do not need to stagger the bosses. That it's not that important anymore, so we can just deal the damage mostly from the Pure Flurry. So this made the boss fight much better, and you can see the damage numbers are also kinda high, and they will even go up to 300 million per Flurry cast, not cast, per Flurry stab, and we are stabbing 4 times per Flurry cast, so we are basically reaching DPS numbers above 1 billion sometimes. It depends on the status of the boss, so for example if it's healthy, injured or normal. But yeah, we have some pretty crazy damage numbers here. And you just saw here in the end it got a little bit better. So if the bosses are pulled together and are very close to each other, so you can see it here. Yeah, somewhere here. So this is the best case scenario. Here you just attack, you hit everyone with your flurries, and this of course triples your damage per second, because you don't have to fight them one by one. So this is the best case scenario, but I have not figured out a strategy yet how you can achieve this. So yeah, you just have to be lucky. But then the boss fight, so this boss fight took me also slightly less than 2 minutes, and if I would be more lucky then it would take me something like 130 maybe. So about 100 seconds, about 90 seconds is possible. And I can also show you this quickly. So I think in this boss fight here I got more lucky, and just straight in the beginning, maybe here. So yeah, just straight in the beginning they were pulled together, and of course this way I can just double my damage here, and this makes it more convenient to kill this tier 8 bosses, which have a bunch of HP, so they have very high health pool. Okay guys, and now I also want to show you my Uber Lilith kill. So just take a look how quickly she dies. Yeah, not a challenge at all. So of course keep in mind I have a very decent gear. This is my min-maxed perfected version of Flurry Rogue, and of course you will need some similar gear in order to achieve the same results. But yeah, I guess you have an idea of how powerful this build is also against Uber Lilith, if you really want to kill her. And I don't have a clip of tormented bosses right now, but I hope you guys just believe me that it's also not a problem at all. You are very tanky, so you saw me clear the tier 8 Infernal Hordes. The bosses also have way more HP, way more life. They are also way more tanky, so if you can kill Infernal Hordes tier 8 bosses, then Tormented, Duriel and Andariel is also not a problem. And I hope you just believe me that. Okay. And now I want to continue with the key mechanics of this build that you need to understand in order to play it. But before we do that, I want to show you this graphic here. So as you can see, only 11.6% of my viewers are subscribers here. And well, if you guys want to support me, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to this channel here. And also maybe leave me a like and write down a comment. And this way you can help me to grow my channel and support me. So thank you for that. And now let's continue with the key mechanics. So the first problem that might occur to you when you try to rebuild this setup here is how you can sustain your energy. So you can see for me, it's not a big problem even versus single targets. So during the boss fight, I will also not have energy problems. And now I can show you how I do that. So I am playing with, so you need, it's a combination of skills and some affixes. So here I have a greater affix on my boots, which give me +8 energy per second. If you can manage to find a greater affix one, you can also try a regular one, but then with a high roll, so at least 6 energy per second. And this will help you out because we are playing with momentum. And you can see here, I will reach something like 24 energy regeneration per second. Also because I have my fluidity glyph, which gives me 15% bonus regeneration, and also momentum passive, which gives us also up to 30 increased energy regeneration, 30%. So greater affix on energy per second on boots. And the other one is resource cost reduction. So here I don't have a greater affix one, I actually have a very bad one. So this is something like a mineral here, 17%. But it's just enough in order to sustain my energy. And the most important one is +4 or +3 innovation ranks on your rings, or on your ring or amulet. So innovation ranks is very important. So I have 7 innovation ranks in total, and this gives me up to 70% chance to gain 8 energy. And I also have quite a decent lucky chance. This lucky chance is multiplied by 4 because Flurry hits 4 times per cast. So this also helps me a lot with energy sustain. And here I'm also playing with Advanced Flurry instead of Improved Flurry. Most people I saw on YouTube so far are playing with Improved Flurry, but Advanced Flurry gives you more damage and also up to 30% energy cost reduction. So this is also very important in order to achieve these results here. And I can also show you some alternatives. So if you can't manage to find energy per second on boots, resource cost reduction on your two-hander, and innovation ranks on your ring, an alternative could be playing with the Starlight aspect. So Starlight gives you 40 energy for every 20% of your life that you heal. And for that reason, most people are playing with Improved Flurry, because here you heal for 10% of your life every cast. So it's not difficult to proc this Starlight aspect. So this is, I would say, the most easy way how you can solve your energy problems. So this could be an alternative in the early end game for you, but then I can recommend you to switch back to this version here. And another thing that you could do is you could play with Umber Crux, just because Umber Crux has a bunch of innovation ranks. So this one has +5. So now we would have 12 innovation ranks, and this would of course help me even more with sustaining my energy level. But besides this innovation ranks, Umber Crux is not a good item, so this is only for energy regeneration if you really need it. So yeah, I have covered some of the alternatives here, and now I want to talk about another very important skill that we have in the setup, which is Rain of Arrows. So why do I have Rain of Arrows? I have already talked about preparation. So preparation says, after spending 75 energy, we reduce the ultimate's cooldown by 5 seconds, and also we reset all other cooldowns after casting our ultimate skill. And we gain 15% damage reduction for 10 seconds. So you can see, after I've cast my ultimate skill here, my Rain of Arrows, I can spam my Flurry and I'll reset it in about 9 to 10 seconds. So the cooldown is 40 seconds and I can refresh it quite fast. And we are not only getting the 15% damage reduction, but the main reason why we want to use Rain of Arrows is we get some further damage bonus. So here I'm playing with No Witness Paragon node, and No Witness gives you a huge damage bonus. So here I have 39% after casting an ultimate skill. So this damage bonus is not only for the ultimate skill itself, but it grants this bonus to all skills for 10 seconds. And also we have Tricks of the Trade. So No Witness just triggers by playing with any ultimate skill. So Death Trap would also work. But Tricks of the Trade says your marksman skills grant your cutthroat skills 25% increased damage for 8 seconds. So because Rain of Arrows is an ultimate skill and a marksman skill, it just procs both of these legendary nodes at the same time. So we gain a damage bonus for 10 seconds, and we gain a damage bonus for 8 seconds. And 15% damage reduction for 10 seconds from preparation. So Rain of Arrows is doing a lot to us. And also, what it also does is it knocks down enemies for 3 seconds. And why is knocking down important? Well, knocking down is pretty good because Malice got reworked in Season 5. And now you deal more damage to vulnerable enemies and also increase damage to knockdown enemies. So after knocking down some elites during the Infernal Hordes, let's say, we also gain some more damage. And I also have plus 3 ranks to Malice. So this would also give me 18% more damage to knock down enemies. So yeah, you can see Rain of Arrows is our best support skill in this build. It does a lot for us. And yeah, it's just fun to use it. And the casting animation got also quicker. So if you have a bow, I can highly recommend you to use a bow, because then you will have a 1.1 attacks per second. Crossbows are slower weapons. And with a bow, the casting animation is pretty fast in my opinion. It's not as fast as Death Trap, but still pretty manageable. So that's why I can highly recommend to play with Rain of Arrows. So yeah, these are basically our key mechanics. And now I can show you how you can achieve the biggest amount of damage in this build. So we also have some other damage multipliers. In the Paragon board, we are also playing with Deadly Ambush, which increases our critical strike damage to enemies affected by trap skills. And the trap skill that we use for that is Caltrops. And we also have another damage bonus, which is Unstable Elixirs. And this gives us 18% more damage after using a healing potion. So my usual rotation for the maximum amount of damage is I activate my Rain of Arrows. Immediately after that, I activate my potion to get the damage bonus from Unstable Elixirs. And before that, I can also do a Caltrops. So actually the order is first I do the Caltrops. And I try to stand within this radius here. Caltrops, then my Rain of Arrows. I drink a potion. And then I could also throw a smoke grenade on an elite pack. And this way I will have the maximum amount of damage. And I can also show you during the boss fight, you want to lay down your Caltrops as often as possible. They are very important for the boss damage. And just before I stagger him, I can again press my ultimate skill here. And I'm seeing many 300 million damage ticks. So I hope you guys also saw them. So I was dealing over 300 million damage per flurry stab. So this is what gives you this huge DPS over 1 billion. Yeah, pretty crazy. Okay, so now let's talk about the requirements. So I have covered this in my last video as well. What you basically need for this build are just the flurry aspects. So we have the bandits aspect here. We have encircling blades. So these are the 2 flurry aspects. And you have stolen vigor, which is also very good for momentum builds. And this is basically your offensive core. Then we also have something like Retribution for additional damage to stunned enemies. I also have Concussive Strikes, more damage versus dazed enemies. And on my ring I have Conceited, which gives me damage bonus while I have a barrier. And we have a barrier quite often. And this is because I have Siphoning Strikes. So Second Wind. Second Wind gives me barrier after spending 100 energy. And because we are blasting with Flurry and just spend so much energy so quickly, I have this permanent barrier, which also increases my damage with Conceited. So yeah, these are all of my aspects here. And I'm also playing with a Shira's Kanjar. It's not required, but it's pretty helpful. It just boosts your overall damage and you attack much quicker with Ashira's Kanjar. So you get 40% more attack speed with the max roll. But basically the Flurry aspects and Stolen Vigor are your core requirements for dealing damage. And then of course Starless Skies and Crown of Lucion are items I can highly recommend, and you can only play them together. So you cannot, you can of course play Ring of Starless Skies by itself, but you cannot play Crown of Lucion without Ring of Starless Skies. So Crown of Lucion will also boost your damage in a very significant way, but in order to tame down this resource cost increase, which is pretty huge, you need a Ring of Starless Skies to make it work. So this is what I meant by requirement heavy build. You need at least one mythic unique in the end game, and you will also need all of this energy regeneration affixes and tempers I mentioned so far. So yeah. And then I think these are all the requirements. Here I'm playing with Tyrael Smite. This is best in slot for basically every build in the game right now, but you do not need to have one. I will show you an alternative for that. So if you do not have Tyrael Smite, you can just play with a regular chestplate. Just put on the Enshrouding aspect. This will also give you a bunch of damage reduction. Then ranks to Dark Shroud is very important. So 5 ranks to Dark Shroud gives you about 20% damage reduction. And then without Tyrael Smite, the only problem is you will lose a bunch of resistances to all elements. So in this setup here, you will need some additional armor rolls. So here I have a Greater FX armor roll. And you will then remove your skulls from your jewelry and put in all of the resistances that you are missing. So here we are basically missing all resistances except shadow resistance. So here you will put, let's say, green, yellow, blue gem into your jewelry, and then you will also need one resistance roll on an item like pants or boots. So yeah, you will have to solve your resistance in a slightly different way. And of course, if you have Tyrael Smite, it's much easier. You are resistance capped immediately, and then you just put in skulls into your jewelry, and you are also armor capped. You only need one regular armor roll. No greater FX required, just basic armor roll, and then you are armor capped and resistance capped very easily with Tyrael Smite. But yeah, you don't need it, like I mentioned. You can also have some alternatives here. And now I want to talk about important affixes. So ranks to Flurry or core skill ranks are obviously very important. So now I have 14 ranks of Flurry. This boosts my damage. And you also want attack speed. So you want, if possible, a greater affix attack speed on your gloves and a greater affix on your ring. So this way I can also show you. So here, this is how the attack speed cap framework would look like. So in Diablo 4 we have attack speed breakpoints, and with this setup here, for example, I'm reaching 3 attacks per second. So I can cast Flurry 3 times per second. I'm reaching 20 frames. The game has 60 frames, so for that reason you divide 60 by 20 and you have 3 casts per second. And for that you need at least, I think it's a bit less actually, it's something like 60.2 attack speed on your sheet So here I have 61.2. I think 60.2 is just enough with the Elixir of Advantage. I don't have it right now, but the Elixir of Advantage also boosts your attack speed by 15%. And together with Yashira's Kanjar, which gives you 40, you will reach this 3 attacks per second. Okay, so if you want to reach the maximum amount, then you should aim for about 60 to 61% attack speed. And that's why it's also quite important on your offensive items. And also, the most important skill ranks of skill, if possible, is Weapon Mastery. So here I have double critted Weapon Mastery on my amulet. And also I have 4 Weapon Mastery ranks on Ashira's Kanjar. And Weapon Mastery is pretty crazy. I will also make a separate video for that, I think. But Weapon Mastery, so here I have plus 12 ranks. And this gives me 84% increased damage versus healthy and injured enemies. And 36% increased damage versus normal enemies. Because I have a dagger, Ashira's Kanjar, and a sword. And I can highly recommend you using a sword instead of a dagger. This will boost your damage by another 20%. Just because how Weapon Mastery works, but I will make a separate video for that. It will take too long to explain here. And yeah, these are basically your most important affixes. And regarding tempering, you want damage per Dark Shroud Shadow. So this is what you want on basically every offensive item. Very important. Then you want flurry size. So you want ideally 2 times flurry size. So for example on your gloves and on your boots, flurry size. This will give you about, so I have, here I was lucky, I have improved it during masterworking. So here I have about 80%, 76%. And you also want 1 roll of chance to freeze enemies, okay? This is very important because we are dealing more damage to frozen enemies with Frigid Finesse. And for that reason you want chance to freeze enemies. And then you have Caltrops size and duration. This is also very helpful during boss fights. So both it's bigger and the duration is longer. It really helps you during boss fight and also during arena runs. And then we have Second Wind. Second Wind is what makes you basically immortal. So here I have plus 4 ranks to Second Wind. And now I have 90% of my maximum life granted as a barrier. And this makes me much more tanky. And like I already mentioned, very important as well is plus 3 ranks to innovation on your ring or amulet. Because this will help you sustain your energy. So you can see it's pretty requirement heavy. You have a lot of important temperings. And only after you have acquired all of these different temperings and item affixes, you will have this powerful S tier build that is functioning just well. So if you want to have a goal in Diablo 4 and have a journey of acquiring all of these items and temperings, then this build is pretty good for you. So now I can maybe show you my character stats last time, just so you have an overview here. So I have a bunch of resistance, maximum resistance because of Tyrael Smite. Then here you can see again my attack speed bonus, critical strike chance. I have a bunch of damage. This is all coming from damage per Dark Shroud Shadows. I can also show you my attack power. So with the right combination, you can see here I'm reaching nearly 2 million. So right now I saw a 2 million tick. I'm reaching 2 million attack power sometimes. So attack power is not an important metric you should pay attention to, but it's pretty fun how big this number gets with this damage per Dark Shroud Shadow ranks. Okay, so these were my stats, and now I can quickly go over the skills. So here nothing has changed too much from my latest guide. I have actually removed Siphoning Strikes just because I'm so tanky that I'm not dying anyways. Here I also like Methodical Shadow Step, but you can also play with Disciplined. It doesn't matter too much. Here I have Disciplined Caltrops for more critical strike chance, especially during boss fights, because during boss fights trick attacks does not work, so we are losing 36% critical strike chance there. And here I also have changed to countering Dark Shroud, also because I want this additional critical strike chance, just for the boss fight, to make it as fast as possible. And yeah, still Frigid Finesse. And here I could invest one more rank into Second Wind and go beyond 90%, but 90% just works fine for me. And here you want Supreme Rain of Arrows to knock down enemies and gain this damage bonus from Malice, like I mentioned before. And of course momentum. And now quickly my Paragon board. So we have Closer Glyph for more damage reduction. Here cheap shot board with the chip glyph. Gives you more damage after dealing physical damage to enemies. Then I think we go first here to the Snow Witness board. We want all of this ultimate damage bonuses. These are very important. This is, by the way, also the reason why I have diamonds in my weapons, because they also give me ultimate damage, which scales with no witness. And like I mentioned, in my gear I have dexterity gems, just because I'm so tanky with this build. So this is by far the most tanky build I have seen in this game with Rogue. And yeah, so diamonds for ultimate damage to scale no witness. Here we are playing with fluidity. Many Rogue players play with Pride, the Pride glyph. But Pride is not as good as you might think, so I think I will also I will put it in the video with Weapon Mastery, because it all has to do with damage versus healthy and injured enemies. So I don't like Pride too much, and so here I'm playing with Fluidity instead. So also gives me some maximum life bonus. And here we have Tricks of the Trade. I'm also getting some damage reduction to close enemies and maximum life. Here we have No Witness, Deadly Ambush. Also maximum life, so I'm not caring about the resistances here, it's just about the life bonus. So basically I get as much life as I can get, so I have some life here, 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 and you will see one more later. And here I have the Ambush Glyph, more damage versus trapped enemies. And the last board is this Exploit Weakness board. And here I also have Cold Resilience for more maximum life. So this is basically what allows me to play a very aggressive green gem setup here and still have nearly 30k life, just because of this Paragon board here. And here we have the Control Glyph. Yeah, just very good offensive glyph overall. So we have Control, Ambush, Chip, Closer, and Fluidity. Okay, so this was the guide. It was a very long video again. Regarding the planner, I'm a bit in a hurry today. I will try to release the planner as soon as possible. So later in the evening or maybe tomorrow, but not longer than tomorrow. So yeah, just watch this video first. And then maximum tomorrow I will have the planner released for you guys. So don't worry, it will come. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I can highly recommend playing this setup here if you want to try out a Flurry Rogue. I believe this is the most powerful setup I have seen so far on YouTube. And it's a pretty amazing S-tier build. Right now, yeah, I am having a lot of fun with it. Okay guys, thank you for your support, thank you for watching this video. I hope I see you in the next one, and until there, have a nice day, and bye bye.